So I don't know how to start this video, but I'm just gonna go straight to it. So some conspiracies that may be possible if you are thinking, put them in the comments below. But these are some things that hypothetically could, you know, be possible, but who knows? But I'm just gonna throw them out there. One of them are create a dependency on the government. So with this pandemic, we have nobody working. Well, we have people working, but a majority of people, not a majority, a good number of people are not working. They are staying at home, just following government orders. And with that, when you don't have work, you can't pay your bills. So the government is now gonna give out the $1,200. What that does is creates kind of a dependency on the government. It kind of makes you look at the government as a nice person. The reality is that money is not really coming from the government. It's actually coming from us, our future selves. We're borrowing that money. The Federal Reserve, it prints it out, but at the end of the day, we pay the price with higher prices in the form of inflation in the future. So you're not necessarily getting it for free. You're going to pay for it eventually through higher taxes and inflation. So next conspiracy, cause a wealth transfer, and that could be done through a recession where people who made dumb decisions to purchase things through credit and not be responsible with their money, they kind of have to foreclose on any things that they own. For instance, a home that they over leveraged and borrowed too much money for, and they could barely make the payments, or they even lied about their income. It eventually bites them in the butt, and then they get foreclosed, and that money goes back to the banks. The banks get to sell that home back to somebody who could afford it, to an investment person. So this could be possible that it could be possible that these foreclosures of any kind, or even just the financial burden, is going to result in more people moving away from even deciding to buy a house in the future. Like maybe they save money, and with this crisis, they have to. I mean, government's giving you money, but they have to dig into their savings, delaying their purchase of a home. So many more people may be renting. Most of the money ends up going to real estate at the end of the day. Whatever money gets made ends up getting spent on some sort of real estate, no matter if you're a business or just a person that works 9 to 5. So that's one form of transfer, wealth transfer. Um, I can't really put it any other way when it comes to wealth transfer. It could be, you built a 401k. So, for instance, people who are paying monthly on the 401k are, tend to, on the good times, tend to make the stocks go higher, because it's a monthly. You can see it as a monthly subscription to stocks when you have a 401k, and that's gonna the tendency of this influx of money from people's paychecks to a 401k is that the stocks will generally go up if the news is continued to be positive and we have a positive economy. So yeah, and then eventually it just goes so high that some event as small as anything, for instance, I'm not saying the COVID-19 is a small thing, but it is something that had a huge effect on the stock market and made the Dow drop 9,000 points in a matter of a month. And that's a huge chunk of money that could have potentially been for people. And I mean, not everybody could cash in on that. People with the 401k are not really hurt so bad, because if they wait longer, they eventually get that back. But at the same time, when you take inflation into account, um, and when you look at gold is doing better than the stock market. When you compare the Dow Jones or any stocks to the gold tends to win. And that's even saying that gold is not even an asset. It's more like a preservation of wealth, of purchasing power. So it's not something that generates money, but it's funny for it to be beating stocks. All right, next conspiracy. Create a one world currency. So how this works is, with so many currencies fluctuating in price, at some point it's possible that countries are like, you know what, like it's better if we all have one common currency that we are using interchangeably. We don't have to go through this whole currency rates all the time, and we can just depend on this one uh, currency, and everything would be leveled off. I don't know in what way, but it would make it easier. It would also make it easier to track um, money. It would make it easy to count how much money each country has. So there will be like a central bank of the world rather than central banks for each nation. Another conspiracy, introduce the digital dollar. That goes along with the and create a one world currency. So by introducing a digital dollar, which we kind of already have, but with digital dollar, I really mean just pure digital dollars, no cash. So we get rid of the cash. We just have digital currencies to circulate throughout the economy, and with that, you're able to print as much as you want, as fast as you want, and you're also able to track it much easier, easily, and you don't have like people in the dark making exchanges. I mean, people could, even if they have a digital dollar, they people could still do exchange bad stuff in the dark market using gold, using silver, using Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency. But with a dollar, you'll be able to track, I guess, and centralize that money and put a stop to any kind of transaction if the government wanted to. I don't know, just an idea. Next, um, next conspiracy is introduce nationwide tracking, which goes hand in hand with that. Well, more specifically, like China, they track their population. They have this app where you were able to see who's sick, who's not, exactly pinpoint block by block in the streets. If we do if we do that and implement it here in the US or anywhere in the world, it will help locate cases of any kind of outbreak, but it does violate some of our privacy. I mean, if we give it permission, then it's okay, I guess, but it's something that's out there that's being talked about on the internet that the government may introduce tracking of personal activity, money transfers, transactions, health records, anything, you name it. Next conspiracy is bail companies out of debt. So currently, before this crisis, pandemic, companies borrowed a lot of money. The stock market was going high and high. All of it was an illusion. It was just a bubble because all that money that's generated, all that money that um, comes into companies and is paid to employees, in one way or another, it's debt, and more debt is accumulated, and companies borrow debt in short term, and then they borrow more to pay the old debt, and this could be a big umbrella um, loan to cover up, and it's an umbrella loan covering all many companies who may need it, and it will be at a low interest, and it's just to prop up the economy, which is fine. But Peter Schiff, one of my favorite YouTube personalities, says that by bailing companies out, you are not weeding out the bad ones. So some bad companies are still operating when they shouldn't, and they're just barely making barely making it possible to stay afloat. But eventually, they if it weren't for any kind of loan or bailout, they would be bankrupt, which would be good. In if you think about it, according to Peter Schiff, um, if they file for bankruptcy, you write off the debt. You don't owe it. You file for bankruptcy. You sell the company to somebody who could manage it better, and that person who bought it will buy it for a less price. And for example, the airlines, a new person comes in, buys out the company after the company went bankrupt, and they will be charging less for tickets because they're starting kind of fresh. So you will pay less for tickets. But with the bailouts, not only is the consumer paying for the loans and the bailouts, they're paying for the interest, and then on top of that, they're paying for the expense of maintaining their airplanes. It's just gonna. This is inflation. This is inflation. Borrow money leads to inflation. Next point is increase government borrowing. That's already something we know. Um, it's an umbrella loan for companies, an umbrella loan for governments. Um, I don't even think this is a conspiracy. This is just straight out, flat out truth. What's going on? All right. Next thing is create hate towards China, which we are currently in a weird situation with the trade war and all, and tariffs imposed on China. So maybe there's, I mean, it's going on all around the world. So I don't really think this is one that's pretty valid. I mean, it could be possible that our government uses, or Trump specifically uses it as an excuse to pull out our companies out of there and bring them back to the US. Of course, China is developing. Their workers won't be as cheap as they were before. And may be possible that India becomes the new developing country that provides this cheap labor and lets the Americans enjoy the fruitfulness of that cheap labor. I'm guilty of it. I have things made in China that I benefited from because of that cheap labor, and um, yeah, I'm guilty. What could I say? Next one is halt immigration. I mean, it is working. That these quarantine or shutdowns, whatever you want to call it, it's working. It's stopping immigration one way or another. We have more troops in borders. Even before the pandemic, it happened. The border fixings are occurring right now. I don't know if they stopped it because of the coronavirus, but it's something that's possible. All right, next thing, and the last one. I can't think of anything else, but this is the last one. Stress undocumented immigrants or undocumented people here, or low income. I don't think this is a really valid one, but it's something that's occurring, especially some that are not residents, and they will not be able to receive any kind of aid from the government because they're excluded from any benefits. So they will be at at a high risk of foreclosing on anything, maybe a car they bought, or they may get kicked out or evicted from their leases that they may have. So puts a big strain on the undocumented immigrants who are making a living paycheck by paycheck. So those are all my possible conspiracies. And with this last one, I just want to say that um, it kind of uh, it kind of creates this fear of living in this nation as an immigrant, and it may make immigrants want to go back to their country. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying, I mean, that's something that's probably going through their mind, and it's kind of sad. So I'm gonna end it with that. Hope you liked the video. Comment below what you think are some conspiracies, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye bye.